All right, welcome to this edition of the Hyperfast Podcast. Today we've got two guests that happen to be on our team, and we're going to talk about copywriting and the importance of it. Whether or not you think of yourself as a copywriter, if you're not doing it, someone needs to do it because you need to communicate your message to your clients, to the public, to prospects, and copy touches everything. And we've got a pair of very, very talented copyright gurus to talk about today. Welcome to the show, Nick Tozier and William Adkison.
Hey there, how are you?
Hi.
How's it going, guys?
Going well, staying busy,
Yeah, so where are you guys coming from? William, looks like you're up at in the studio there at our studio in Arlington. What about you, Nick?
I'm from my office in DC.
All right, I like that graffiti-esque background there.
Yeah, give us
I don't know what you're saying with it, but it's pretty cool. Before we jump into different ways that real estate agents can use copy, how we're using it, some of the cool principles and all that, why don't each of you just tell the listeners out there a little bit about yourself and how you got into copywriting?
Sure. I can go ahead and start. I actually, I started writing in general through the world of academia. I was teaching a university for a while, and I left and moved to the DC and started working with KST. Was actually my first marketing job. So I'm from kind of an entirely different world of writing. We're trying to bring that sort of energy to primarily our educational work on our blog and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Nick?
I've been writing copy, I think, for about 15 years now. I started off just writing basically just nonfiction articles on the internet about different topics that interested me for whatever blog or magazine or whatever would take me. Ended up writing for a furniture company along the way, wrote like hundreds and hundreds of product descriptions for different types of furniture and things for upscale furniture. Sold mattresses at one point with copy. Actually, I think that's what I was doing right before I joined you all. So.
Selling beds, selling homes, all the same, right?
Mm-hmm. A few differences.
So you guys have a little bit of variety in your background there.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, more the sales copy background. William, more the academic.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's a lot different than what you're doing. I mean, you gotta sell your idea, your thesis to some degree, but you certainly have a lot more space to do it. What are the kind of some of the differences you think between academic writing and what you're doing now?
I think they're actually the kernel is really similar. Like you're saying, the thesis of an academic paper is almost the exact same as like a subject line or a tagline, in that it has to be self-contained and very clear to anyone, even if they don't really know what you study. But like you said, you also have, rather than 50 words of a headline, you have 15,000 of a paper. So it's a lot more room to kind of expand upon what you're doing, which at the same time, however, it kind of serves the same function as like a funnel, like a sales funnel, in that you have kind of the tagline to get them in being the thesis, and then you sort of work them down all the way until you sell them on your point, or in the case of real estate, sell them on an appointment with you or a house or whatever your end goal is in that given piece. So it mostly is a matter of with academic writing, you kind of have a captive audience. People have to kind of read what you're doing for their job or for their studies or whatever. So the main difference is making sure that your audience stays engaged in sales copy. It's a lot harder of a task.
Yeah, you got to have that hook, line, sinker. I'm sure we'll talk about that in
Definitely.
more detail as we go through the show here. What what was the extent of your academic writing? Was it, bachelor, master's, PhD? I mean, you said you were teaching, but what were you writing? What level did you get to in that world?
So I completed my master's degree and was working for an academic journal for a little bit. So I was involved sort of in academic publishing for a hot second. But in teaching, I was teaching entry-level history classes. So as a master's student teaching undergraduate students. In terms of writing, I didn't move on to the PhD just because academia didn't really stick with me, and I didn't stick with it, I guess. But I did complete my master's thesis, that whole process.
Gotcha. I actually, not everyone knows this. I had a history degree.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Naval Academy offers it. It's a Bachelor of Science still, even though it's history. It's one of the only Bachelor of Science in history. Yeah. And then I somehow tricked them into paying for my Master Arts, my MA in history at Maryland. So I wrote extensively on the developments of United States torpedoes between World War I and World War II. Really, yeah, that's being nice. So thank you.
I mean, I wrote about medieval Lithuania, so it's cooler than mine.
Yeah. Anyway, Nick, let's get into this hook, line, sinker concept. I think this is something you probably had experience before you got to us, even if it wasn't framed that way. I learned it from Russell Brunson. What does that mean to you, and how should real estate agents listening to this apply that to their marketing? Hook, line, sinker.
Oh, big time. So I think the first way I encountered
hook. I messed up. It's not hook, line, sinker. It's hook, story, offer. Jeez.
It is kind of hook, line, sinker.
I'm looking at the water here, and so fishing is on my mind.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. So hook, that's story, offer.
So the way we use that is the hook is whatever gets somebody to stop kind of, well, let me introduce how people navigate on the web, right? They don't read, really. They skim and they scan, and that goes for me too. Like, I love reading, but when we're online, it's only it's a tiny figure. I mean, last I think I saw updated numbers for it, it was something like maybe 20%, if you're lucky, people read your content as though they're reading a book or something with that kind of, but most people do not. We skim, we scan, we are quickly looking to see what's relevant for us on the page, and we're gone, in a matter of seconds, or sometimes less than a second. People move really fast nowadays. There are so many demands on their time. So the hook's job is to just get them to stop and look and be drawn in. So that's, your email subject line. That's your, the top line of your Instagram post or something, or it's the picture in your Instagram post. It's whatever element in the marketing just gets people to slow down for a second and really look at what you're saying. So then the story is kind of how you pivot from that initial visual or that subject line, and you draw them in further. You might start addressing really some of the reasons that they may be reading this. You might be hitting on, what service you're offering to them, or you may be telling a dramatic story that keeps them reading a bit. It depends on the content, right? If you're doing hard sales, you're probably going to get straight to the offer pretty quickly, and then you're going to kind of fill in details as you go to answer objections and things. If it's content, you might be a little more dramatic with it, but the goal is still to keep them reading through and get them to your offer, your CTA. So hook, your headline, or whatever to get them to stop. Story to draw them in a little further, and you really want to pull them into that CTA and say yes or no.
Yeah, and really, I think it's more than just emails, Facebook posts. You have to think of this concept in all of your marketing, all of your prospecting, all of your interactions with the clients. Even if we're talking here, we've got to say stuff compelling enough in the beginning of our podcast to hook people in, get them to stay around, and then have some story, and then have a great offer, to go learn more at hyperfastagent.com, or get our free book at hyperfastfreebook.com, things like that. So if you have a breakdown in any marketing, prospecting, or sales process that you do, you can always go back and look and see, do I have a hook there to get their attention? Do I transition to a story where I build my case, and then do I have a clear offer, call to action at the end, whether it's book an appointment, make a phone call, enter in an email, whatever it is. You have to have all of those in everything you do. And you guys do a ton of copywriting for our real estate team, for our investors, for Hyperfast Agent. William, why don't you dive into some of the things that you work on and what you're most excited about?
Yeah, for sure. So like you said, I write a lot of for multiple different brands, KST, HFA, Hyperfast, investment, development, basically all of anything related to real estate, I'm probably writing something about. And for me personally, I do the best with longer form content, particularly blogs. I really focus on, especially with KST,
where are you blogging in case people are listening and want to see examples of your work?
Great question. You can go to carryscholl.com/blog. And that's it. Everything on there is really excellent keyword driven content, giving us really great organic traffic, which is good because it's essentially free. It's free leads for you pretty much if you have a good blog. We're moving more into blogging on HFA soon as well. But that's really where my I assume my academic background helps out, is that longer form content. And it still works, like Nick was saying, in the hook, story, offer format. You just have a lot more story to work with, which means you have, rather than 100 words to build a case, you have 1,000 words to build why someone needs to work with a real estate agent or why they should be staging their home. And then your offer at the end has this big authoritative back to it that can really drive action through to whatever you want it to be in your sell.
Nick, what about you? What are you working on these days that's most exciting to you?
I'm writing a lot of material for Hyperfast Agent. One of the most exciting things, I think, something I really like to do, is A/B test headlines and things like that, or A/B test like things in the bodies of emails, just examples of little things. And this is something that usually most email marketing platforms can do. And it doesn't take too much setup, but you can test one little thing that you tweak in each email. And it might be a fairly important thing, you may try different subject lines and just see what pulls better. Or you might get more granular with it and go into the body of the email and say, just change the color of your call to action buttons even, and just see because who knows, a certain color, believe it or not, for a CTA button could pull significantly better.
Oh,
so
yeah. It's definitely true. Yeah, and I think it's important to test different colors, fonts, subject lines, headlines, phrasing, wording, all of that. I never want people to sit around and wait to take action because they are wondering what's going to be perfect, but I want you to take action, test, track, refine, try a different version, and then adjust along the way. So
right, yeah.
I like this concept that you bring up about testing different elements.
I would say as part of that, I would recommend especially if you're getting into more email copywriting, make sure to keep logs of the data of your emails. We have a weekly running list that Nick and I update of all of the emails we sent that week, what their subject line was, open rate, click rate, opt-out rate, every piece of data that we can get from our email services in order to just so we can completely fine tune what worked well, why did it work well, why did this not work well, and we are constantly going over that with each other and making sure that we're all on the same page with what is effective at that time.
How much time are you guys spending creating content, writing a day typically?
Great question. It somewhat week to week, but I'm usually spending 3 hours or so a day on a blog, usually an hour or two on emails, hour or two on ads. It's pretty much all day. We're just writing different kinds of content.
What about you, Nick?
It's a lot of email most days right now. Yeah. Sometimes a lot of Facebook ads as well. Particularly recently when we were getting ready to launch news of the summit there, went in and wrote a bunch of ads. How many ads did we have there, William? It was something like 40 in the end, turned over in a day and a night.
It was 42 ads in 26 hours.
Wow.
Cranking them out.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Well, don't get intimidated, by the way, if you're out there listening, you're like, oh my God, I don't have time to spend 6 hours a day writing shit. Well, it doesn't take that much. And obviously we're a team, we've got a lot of people, so it's different. But I would venture to say that if you spent an hour of focused time every morning writing, and you could divvy it up, like an hour on writing, an hour on following back up with new clients, an hour with following back with current clients and past clients. If you just did that 3 to 4 hours a day and only 1 hour is dedicated to copy and content, you could be highly effective and probably double or triple your business. And really, if you were a solo agent, both of you, and we're going to write for 1 hour a day, what would you write? How would you do it?
Nick, do you want to go first?
I can if you'd like, yeah.
Yeah, I want to think about it.
I think what I would do first, see, that's a tough decision, right? Because there are trade-offs to like each platform you would use. I think what I would do first, I think I would start some kind of blog, even if it was just on LinkedIn or something. And then every time, so there are certain things, situations you can encounter where you're going to answer the same questions over and over as a real estate agent. You're going to have certain concepts that come up repeatedly. And why not, if you're going to answer the question anyway, why not just write down your response? Or you can even record it into a voice memo. Voice transcription of like digital assistants on phones can be pretty good at getting you a transcription of what you just said into your phone in the car or something. You're going to want to edit that, of course, to make sure that the transcriber didn't get anything wrong. But just start answering those questions and writing and posting it where clients can find you. You're really going to want to make sure, get Dan's book, for one thing, the Hyperlocal, Hyperfast Real Estate Agent. Do the segmentation, targeting, and positioning strategy so that you know who you're writing for, you know who your audience is, you know what benefits and things you want to hit, and who you're trying to reach and all that, so that your time is rewarded. If you've got an hour a day to make content, you want to make a really decisive piece of content on that day if you can, of course. So.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I would also agree that a blog is important. And what I would do is I would blog on like a Saturday or a day where it's going to be a little slower, and spend 3 or 4 hours. And then what you can do from there is, if you have a blog that answers 7 common buyer questions, well, that's 7 weeks worth of emails basically to send to buyers on this week, I can send them question 1 or question 2 or whatever it may be. And then you can spend 30 minutes a day editing that down to email format, making sure CTA is really strong. And that way you don't have to worry about the story. You can focus all your attention on the hook and the offer. Just reusing the content you're already making. Work smarter, not harder. And that's what we do. I take the blogs that I write and turn them into emails constantly, turn them into posts constantly. If you already have the content, just use it.
Yeah, like if you could take 30 minutes of that hour and do one long form piece, like a blog or an email or a LinkedIn article, and then you could probably take like 10 minutes and maybe spend that on some of your long-term follow-up sequences, and then the other 20 minutes just taking that content that you wrote, that longer form, take 20 minutes to chop it up into social media posts and like, man, if you do that, you're like light years ahead of 99% of all real estate agents.
Yeah. And then take the transcription and record you reading it, and then put it on YouTube and Instagram, everywhere.
Yeah. Now you got the video from it or audio. But yeah, I think the biggest thing stopping agents from doing this, really, it's not about time, because you can do it in an hour a day. I think it's fear of rejection, because it's kind of personal to write things. And I think what happens is people are like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to say it this way or that way. And especially now, like, people are just getting taken to the cleaners over things, anything they say that can potentially be out of context. I think people get nervous, and so they hold back, and so they make it generic. They make it like every single real estate agent email, like the subject line is literally like my real estate newsletter. Like, they're afraid to make bold or different hooks. And really that's, if people don't open it, don't stop scrolling, like it doesn't really matter what the rest of it is. So I think you got to get over that fear of rejection, and I don't think we ever get like more than like 10% of what I'll call hate on any of our content ads, emails. Normally it's a lot less than that, but when we get one that has like 10% hater responses, that's a good piece. And that means a lot of, that means 90% a lot of other people read it and realized it and know that we're out there offering, our home buying or agent training services. So
definitely.
You got to get over that fear, right? I mean, what's your advice to people on that?
Yeah, I would say that a lot of really incredible writers fail because they never write. There's a reason that like writer's block is such a commonly understood thing. Like it doesn't matter how good someone is writing. If you're not writing, it doesn't matter. So like Dan's saying, just get the content out there. Get your emails out there, get your blogs out there, whatever it is. The worst result is that someone doesn't read it, and then you'll get them with another piece as you continue to grow. Just do it, I guess, is my advice there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we send to large audiences, and I'm not going to lie, like just about every time there's a little part of me that goes like, right before you hit send, there's this little moment where you're like,
not so sure what this one.
Yeah. Am I sure I got everything? There's always this temptation to go like, is everything perfect in this thing? Am I sure? And there is a point where you really have to kind of like trust your messaging. You put some forethought into your messaging, of course. You're going to think about who you're going to serve. You're going to think about why you're writing to them. But there does come to a point too where, kind of like video marketing, it's like whatever content you put out there, you are putting part of your personality out as well. And some people will be drawn to it. Some people will be repelled by it. And that's the way it is. That's the way life is too. It's just that most people in their daily lives don't go around talking to 20,000 people at once all day, every day. So you're going to experience a higher volume of that. One thing I think I would say is that remember that people who disapprove of your message are often going to be a lot more vocal. So always weigh that one person who comments. I'll never forget. Let me think of an example. I think it was Dan, wasn't it Arl Now?
Yeah,
I
probably.
think that I posted something to, and somebody commented like over the weekend, like, man, if I wrote this copy, I'd be embarrassed. Like this writes like a robot wrote it. And you're just like, you got to laugh because at some point it's like, well, there's also something in the back of my head that goes like, that's a copywriter who's looking to create a job opening for themselves locally as well. Get a call from this real estate team saying, we heard that
at least they're reading and commenting. The ironic thing is, and we'll get this on our ads, there's some people that don't like that we're building nice homes in transitioning neighborhoods and comment a lot on there, and they don't want to see the ad. But what they don't realize is when they comment on it and engage more, they're actually teaching Facebook to show them that ad a lot more. And
right.
I've always thought that's funny. So overall, criticism in comments is better than no comments at all. So
yes, 100%.
So take that for what it's worth.
If the listeners have ever heard anything that Dustin Brown, the voice of Hyperfast occasionally, has talked about, like the rejections that they get as ISAs, people just hanging up on them, you kind of develop a similar like cavalier attitudes towards it with copy. Nick was saying, getting mean comments in Arrow Now. Every time we put an article on one of our affiliate sites, we'll go through the comments and laugh about the people who are really mad at us, who would just be like, how can you say that taco place is good? That place is terrible. And you're like, why do you care this much? And you saw our content. We got you, I guess.
Yeah.
So you just kind of develop a sense of humor about it after a while.
We ought to test just like taking the worst one and including it in the list or something.
Absolutely.
You gotta have thick skin and almost relish in it. Like I kind of get excited. I'm not gonna lie when people start throwing rocks at it because that means it's working.
Yeah.
I listen for feedback, but there's definitely like you have to be able to look between things that are like constructive that could improve your messaging versus somebody being angry at you for reasons that you can't really control. So that's definitely a line to keep in mind too. So if anyone's sensitive about that rejection, just remember like the one mean comment will stick out in your mind more than the 100 nice ones too. That's just a human bias that we have as well. So keep that in mind.
All right, guys. Were you saying something, William?
I was going to say there's nothing better than the feeling of flipping that person. On one of our affiliate sites, someone said recently on a post, like, I wasn't so sure about these people, but after they said this, I think I'm a fan of them now. And it's like, yes, we got you. Like, yeah, it's such triumph.
Yeah, I agree. It's don't give up on them. They'll come around if you just put your head down and keep going out there, and you got to be consistent. You can't do a wall blog or an email once a week even. Like, you got to get at this every day if you want to have the best results. People are afraid to do it, but you got to just be consistent. The more you do it, the better you'll get, the quicker you'll be able to do, the more content you'll be able to put out, and you'll build confidence because it'll give you results. So just be consistent.
Definitely.
Well, guys, before we wrap up, I want to do the Hyperfast round. So you've probably heard some of these questions before. So if you're ready, let's go.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. What's your biggest piece of advice to a new real estate agent besides join our team if they're in the DC area?
Nick, do you want to go first?
I can. Biggest piece to a new real estate agent. I would say make sure you're writing longer form pieces, chopping it up and repurposing it. Your time is extremely valuable as a solo agent. So you want to make the most impact of that. Just crank out that, look for pain points, really drill home the benefits you can create, and listen for common fears and objections and things that your clients and prospects are asking about. Because those are like any Ask the Agent style content is going to, you'll answer the question once, you might not have to answer it 50 times or more in the future because you've got that content out there.
Yeah, my advice would be to create a swipe file. If you ever click on a headline, you ever open an email, you ever click on an ad, immediately write down what the copy was for that, whatever the subject line or the slug was, or the tagline, and then just steal it. Adapt it a little bit to your business or whatever, but just like, if it works, take it. And eventually you'll start developing your own content and stealing from yourself, and that's like a great feeling.
Yeah, it's not bad to be on, different sales and marketing email blasts, or create like if you don't want them in your main inbox, create a separate email just to get ideas. So that's a great one to make that swipe file. What's been the biggest challenge for you guys transitioning from the type of writing you were doing before to writing for real estate?
For me, the biggest transition was being really forthright on advertisements and just like immediately just being like, hey, I want you to buy a house with me, because it's just so different from the writing I was doing. But people appreciate that honesty, and the ones who engage will engage.
I'm sorry, say again?
One
more time. I forgot the question. I was listening to William.
Biggest challenge from transitioning from your previous writing to real estate copywriting?
Well, I was selling mattresses before. I would say overall it was just the specialized topic knowledge. And that was kind of an advantage early on in its way, because often as a real estate agent, you know a lot. You have a lot of knowledge about the process and all that. And I think sometimes having kind of a fresh mind entering the picture isn't a bad thing, because you will have entry level questions that, say, a first time buyer will have. So actually, if you happen to hire a brand new copywriter and they do not have prior industry experience, use that early time. Encourage them to ask you questions about the process, I would say. If you find yourself in the position to hire a copywriter and if they don't have that experience, use that learning period to draw out some questions that you might have forgotten, that browsers of your website might be asking or something.
Yeah, great stuff, Nick. What's been what piece of content, if you remember one, has been your most favorite that you've made on the for real estate?
Oh man, for me, it was probably writing about, this is a recent one, so it might be a little bit of recency bias, but recently I wrote a blog about 1031 tax exchanges. And that was really fun just because I got to spend a lot of time learning more about investment tax law, essentially. And it basically was a learning experience for me that I then got to sort of put out to other people, and it's doing very well, which helps.
That's certainly a relevant one, and you might want to follow up, because that's been in the news lately. We're not going to get political on this show, but one of the people running for president wants to eliminate that exchange, which would have probably not good results for commercial real estate,
Yes.
to say the least. So probably be good to do a follow-up on maybe implications on real estate of each candidate, something like that. I'm sure that'll get a lot of comments.
We'll put it on the content calendar.
What about you, Nick? What's your favorite piece of content you've made?
Actually, I'm gonna put out a hook that I think this was a previous writer, I think, before me, but I think a really good subject line that we used was 6 home renovation projects that don't pay off when it's time to sell.
Huh.
And actually, that one popped to my own head. I'm not doing a very good job of marketing myself on this one, but that was such a marked subject line that did so well that it immediately popped in my head. It's one of my favorites that I've seen in there.
Yeah, I like that because it plays on the fear of loss, risk aversion. It's a very well-established principle. People will take far greater risk to avoid a loss than to like press a gain, and it's really just because we don't want to be seen as losers. So I think that would be much more read than if you did the inverse of that, and if it was like 6 home renovations that pay off, like people would probably read that too, but what they really want to know is, how do I not lose money on this so I can brag to my friends,
Yep.
Right. But other than that too, honestly, the copywriting for the Hyperfast Sales Summit, of course, because we've got a bunch of really top tier industry figures. We've got people who are really amazing in their fields, including some people inside of real estate itself and others in like PR and marketing. An unexpected figure in JP Sears, who is amazing at video and also really funny and entertaining too, of course. I think writing about the Hyperfast Sales Summit has been really, really exciting and interesting.
What do you guys do in your spare time when you're not making content, when you're not writing? What would we find you doing?
I'm usually writing, just not. I run a blog about writing, and then I also write creatively on top of that.
All right, I didn't know that. What's that blog? Tell everyone.
Storytellerworkshop.com.
All right, storytellerworkshop.com. Check it out, guys. What about you, Nick?
This is going to be shocking, but I play guitar in my spare time. I really enjoy it's like one of those fields where you get to invest some disciplined time, and then you get like a big time investment payoff later, which was like an early in my life kind of reward. That's kind of how I learned, like, you put in some disciplined effort, you get like a fun result that pays you off double or tenfold for your time in terms of the results you get. So that was one of those things that stuck with me over the years.
All right, last question of the Hyperfast round. Where do you see yourselves in 5 years from now?
Nick, you take this first.
God, given the way the news is every day, it's hard to picture what next week will be like. But I'm definitely.
That's true. Everyone who answered this question 5 years ago got it wrong.
Yeah, it's like I hesitate. Who knows? But I'll definitely be writing in some form. I did choose a field that won't fall to AI too soon. I think AI still struggle to write articles big time. So hopefully I'll still be writing. I really enjoy it. You're always getting to learn things. Meet people, dig into interesting topics. So for sure, writing, and there are 1,000 niches to explore in real estate for sure.
Definitely. I might actually still be locked up in my house in 5 years, just because I'm boring. In actuality, I see myself still being a part of this incredible growth that Hyperfast is undergoing, and hopefully having the chance to work with other incredible writers to just make more content for you guys, and to be a part of the top selling real estate team in the entire world.
All right, well, that's exciting. I hope you both succeed, and I hope 5 years from now is a little bit more predictable than 5 days is right now. So yeah. Before we sign off, if people want to get in touch with you or follow you on social media or other blogs you guys are writing, where should they go? Obviously, they can see your work at hyperfastagent.com and carryscholl.com, but where should they go for other stuff?
Like I said, storytellerworkshop.com is my personal writing blog. carryscholl.com/blog. All the content there is stuff that I create. So Feel free to go there and leave a comment. You can also see I write a lot of copy for the Carrie Shull Team YouTube page. So again, go there, watch it's amazing videos, great stuff there. Leave some comments, interact with us. We'd love to see you guys on there.
Mm-hmm. And you can find me also at Hyperfast Agent, primarily hyperfastagent.com/blog for that. And also just in your email inbox, most likely, if you're on our mailing list.
Subscribe to our newsletter or at hyperfastagent.com or hyperfastwealth.com or carrieshull.com, and just look at the content, check it out, and learn from it. Even if you're a real estate agent that just wants to see what we put out to our buyer and seller clients. So check it out, get on that list, and thanks for being on the show, guys, and everyone else out there. Thanks for listening in. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Hyperfast Show. Subscribe to us if you want to make sure you get the latest and greatest Hyperfast shows. And remember, we love reviews. Reviews help us bring better and better guests and improve our shows. So give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see more, click right here. And if you're new to this channel, click below to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss out. And leave some comments about what you think on the videos. I'll see you next time.